There really is something freeing about riding a motorbike. The fresh air on my face, even if it feels like -20, or is it being small enough to feel nimble and quick, yet realising that every bull bar gets the final word. I've had my motorbike Maximus for a few years now, but I only really started riding again when Helga, my ute, blew a head gasket. Maximus became the practical and only option to get around. But even now, with Helga repaired, Maximus stopped being the backup plan and has become the preferred mode of transport. Helga feels more like a cargo carrier, where Maximus feels like an escape. He is the machine that made me fall in love with riding. My mighty steed, my freedom machine, my small displacement psychological support vehicle. Maximus. Yes, Maximus is a Postie bike. 110 cc's of unembarrassed power, no room for ego, and just enough attitude to believe he belongs on the open road. But to me, he has always been something much bigger. He is simple, forgiving, uncomplicated in a way that I deeply respect. He's an absolute little titan, and he has taught me so much about riding. But lately, I have started craving something more. To scratch that itch for adventure, I did what any sane person would do. I entered the YouTube rabbit hole. Endless channels of adventure riders crossing countries, camping in the middle of nowhere, and fixing things with cable ties and litres of optimism. After weeks of binging, my imagination skyrocketed past atmospheric reality. I'm of course now planning the Long Way Down Under series with Charlie and Ewan. All 3 seasons, of course. Yet the reality is that I still get anxious when Maximus and I cross the short 80km zone between Wodonga and Albury. But the more I watched, the more I realised what it was I was being drawn to. It was the reminder that these riders were not getting everything right all the time, but they worked it out. That gave me confidence, not because it made adventure look easy, but because it made it look possible. I did not need to have the perfect bike, the perfect gear, the perfect route, or the perfect version of myself before I start. All I needed was enough preparation to be sensible, enough humility to learn, and enough courage to begin imperfectly. I'm not wanting to cross continents. I'm just wanting to head down a road I have never travelled to a place I have never been. But if I was going to do that, I had to be honest. Maximus is brilliant. He taught me slowly, safely, and without too much pressure or intimidation. And this is not about him being incapable. People have taken Postie bikes to places that would make much bigger bikes quietly ask for a trailer back to the showroom. But for me, there is a difference between possible and comfortable. Sitting in a 100km zone with traffic behind me just makes me feel small, slow, and in everyone's way. I do not want speed for the sake of speed. I just want a little more margin. Enough oomph to keep up with the road I was on. Enough capacity to carry some gear. Enough confidence to make a longer ride feel possible without one impatient vehicle giving me an unscheduled colonoscopy. But I also did not want too much bike that I would need to hang on with gorilla-like grip and clenched buttocks. Maximus had not failed me. He had done what he needed to do, and now he had made me curious about what might come next. So I started researching. Reviews, forums, owner groups, spec sheets, YouTube videos again. And after hours of research, I was convinced that unless your bike can survive the Dakar Rally, you may as well stay home and take up knitting. But eventually I realised I was researching the wrong thing. I was looking for the perfect adventure bike when I actually needed to look for the perfect adventure bike for me, for my confidence, for my experience, for my anxiety, for the rider I actually am and the rider that I might become. And that became the real question. Not what bike looked the most impressive, not what bike the internet had decided was acceptable this week, and not what bike made me feel like an adventure rider before I had even earned it. I needed something that suited the rider I actually was. Cautious, curious, a bit anxious, but wanting the road to open up a little further. A bike that would not pretend I was already experienced, but would give me room to become more capable. And after weeks of searching, curious and cautious searching, there was one bike that just kept grabbing my attention.